WWE is publicly bashing AEW. Also, in addition to that, one AEW star is teasing his departure from the company. Is he leaving? Is he staying? Contract is set to expire soon. Lots to talk about. Also, Hikaru Shida is going back to Japan. What are the plans there for her return? Is she staying with AEW? All that coming up in today's video. As always, if you guys want more news stories, this is the channel to subscribe to. Bring you guys daily content every single day. So I'd appreciate it if you guys were to subscribe. All right, so we're going to actually kick things off with Hikaru Shida, because if you guys didn't know, Hikaru Shida is injured and she was written off of AEW television after her feud with Serena Deeb. One of the better women's division storylines in the past year. I think AEW has done a phenomenal job with Serena Deeb, but I also thought they did a phenomenal job with Hikaru Shida. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this is because Hikaru Shida is in fact traveling back to Japan, and then at some point is expected to return to AEW. Now, I do want to say that I've always believed Hikaru Shida is the best talent on AEW's women's division. I think I think she is the best women's talent on the company, maybe even top 5, just all around in the company. There's just a lot of great things I could say about Hikaru Shida, and I do think AEW would be smart to continue building the women's division around Hikaru Shida and Britt Baker and Serena Deeb. And I think when you look at those 3 people, and then you look at, they have Thunder Rosa, they're building up Ty Conti and Anna Jay, and they're building up Jade Cargill. The women's division is actually starting to improve. So yes, the belief is that Hikaru Shida is not finished with AEW, but she will be away from AEW for a while, which kind of sucks, honestly, because I think what they've been doing between her and Serena Deeb has been really cool. But I also think they have the opportunity to come back to that when she is ready to return. So only time will tell. I do want to discuss a little bit about Peter Avalon, who is teasing a major career announcement this upcoming Monday on January 17th, 2022. Now, this is very interesting because Peter Avalon is part of AEW and is one of the original signings that the company has had since the beginning. The belief is that his contract could be expired soon. Now, what's really interesting is there's been a lot of talk online as to whether or not Peter Avalon is staying with the company, not staying with the company, maybe doing a different role within the company. But it's very interesting because AEW, since the beginning, has changed a lot. It's been a really big change for the company, especially when you look at the roster and the signings. So we're not really sure if Peter Avalon is going to be part of the group of people that don't re-sign with the company, but I'm really intrigued to see what AEW does here, because they do have a lot of talent not being used, and of course they have a lot of talent that they've signed from the beginning and they haven't been used since. So as you can tell, AEW has made a lot of different signings. Whatever your personal thoughts are, in terms of those signings, that's really up to you and what you believe. But it doesn't change the fact that AEW, because of these signings, haven't used a lot of their original signings. And again, things obviously change. But I think that's the thing. AEW might not be releasing people, but them not extending the contract, in my opinion, it's either way, people aren't going to be working for AEW, right? Whether or not Peter Avalon is part of those plans will be really interesting. I actually thought AEW could have done something pretty cool with the Wingmen, but for some reason they've never really committed to that as part of a storyline or a part of a focus on the TV show. And this just kind of goes into that conversation as to, maybe whether or not AEW should extend Rampage another hour. Something obviously needs to change. I don't know what that solution is just yet, but clearly there's a lot of people not being used, and that's going to be the real interesting dialogue. And I think that's something that AEW needs to focus on going into 2022. I know they got to make their TV partners happy, but also at the same time too, there is going to come a point where people in AEW just aren't going to be happy, right? They're not being used or whatnot. So it's everywhere. It's like any other job. Not everybody's 100% happy with their job. We don't know what's going to come out of AEW side. We obviously hear it a lot within Impact or WWE. We don't really hear of these stories with AEW. So it is going to get really interesting very, very soon. All right, guys, and before we get into our final story of the day, just another reminder, Angle Plays is here. This is a channel where I bring you guys daily content on WWE 2K22, AEW's console game, the wrestling code. There's a lot of details coming out on the game, so just make sure you guys click that subscribe button. We're trying to get 1,000 subscribers. We're just shy of 900. I'd really appreciate if you guys help the brother out right there. All right, guys, in our final story of the day, something that you probably did not expect, WWE takes a massive shot at AEW. They issued a statement to the Toronto Star, and this is very interesting. WWE's statement reads, "If you look at the gory self-mutilation that bloodied several women in the December 31st event on TNT, it quickly becomes clear that these are very different businesses. We had an edgier product in the Attitude Era, and in the 2022 world, we don't believe that type of dangerous and brutal display is appealing to network partners, sponsors, venues, children, or the general public as a whole." Really interesting stuff that's coming there from WWE. Now, this is a representative from WWE. It's not sure if it's Vince McMahon or whatnot. But here's what I'll say, because I've been getting a lot of questions on Twitter and Discord on my opinions. I think WWE, if they're going to, and this is the same thing that I said about AEW, if you're going to take shots at your competitors, you got to make sure your product is perfect. That means A to Z, from beginning to end, your product is perfect. And not just one episode, but your product is perfect every single week. Because I think what's happened here is that there is fans who believe AEW, and they're behind AEW when AEW takes shots at WWE. But those same fans can't seem to admit it when AEW makes a mistake. And I think the same of WWE. And my belief is that I think competition is good. As time goes on, I've started to become more willing and more understanding of the public shots that are being taken. But my belief still hasn't changed. If you're going to take shots publicly at your competitor, you got to make sure you're on your A game at all times. And while I do like parts of AEW, and while I do like parts of WWE, I think there's things in both companies that prevent them from being perfect. Okay? I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying it prevents them from being perfect. And I think if you're going to talk about your competition, especially in this way, I think you got to make sure your product is perfect. And I deep down inside, your product's not going to be perfect. I've always believed that you should worry less about your competitors and worry about yourself. And the more that you worry about yourself, your product will stand out on its own. I've always believed that. And that's not just in wrestling. That's just in real life. Whether you're a musician, a YouTuber, whatever it may be. If you own your own business, I think you will benefit more worrying about your own product and your own business than others. And I think people will see how dedicated you are to your business. And we have all seen when Tony Khan is outspoken about WWE, fans typically get upset by it, right? You have 50-50. You see some fans that get upset by it because fans are starting to realize that AEW is not the most perfect promotion. They obviously have shortcomings, and that's normal. But I think sometimes people get bothered by it. Me personally, like I said, if you're going to talk shit about your competitor, that's fine. Just make sure you're on your A game. I don't think WWE is at the point where they could be talking about blood and guts and self-mutilation and women bleeding and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, WWE has done random shit like this before. And I think AEW shouldn't talk about WWE because honestly, I don't think their product is perfect either. I think both of them offer good, but both of them need work. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think AEW right now is putting out the better product, and for that reason, I still don't think Tony Khan should be outspoken about WWE and ratings and all this stuff. I think you should focus on your product, and more people will be happy about it. Anyways, I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. As always, I'm bringing you daily videos, so don't forget to subscribe.